All right, today we're going to look at some problems from section 7.4, adding and subtracting rational expressions. And basically what we're doing in all of these is we're adding fractions. And we know from back in elementary school and middle school and Algebra 1 that in order to add or subtract fractions, we need a common denominator. And so that's our goal in each one of these, is to find a common denominator and then be able to add the two. But what you'll see in a number of these is we're going to be able to do some simplifying first. And so here, notice we have some common factors. 2 divides into itself once, into 4 twice. And then we have an x divides into itself once, and an x squared x times. So our new fraction here becomes 1 over 2xy plus x minus 2y over 5. So our common denominator, or common multiple between our denominators, is going to be 10xy. And a lot of times you aren't just going to multiply the two denominators. So now, in order to make this a 10xy, I'm missing a 5. And so I'm going to multiply that by 5 over 5, right, which that is 1. And here I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by xy. Okay, so in our numerator we have 5. And then in the denominator, we have 10xy. Now in the numerator here, we're going to have to distribute. So we have an x squared y minus a 2y squared over 10xy. And then now I can add them, and I have 5 plus x squared y minus 2y squared over 10xy. So hopefully that makes some sense to you there. Now over here, notice that the common denominator, or the denominator on that one, is 1. So this will be our common denominator. So on the other one, we're going to have to multiply by the full denominator there. And when we distribute here, 6 times 15 is 90. And m to the 4th minus 2 over 15 and m cubed. Okay, moving down here, we're going to factor, and I'm not actually going to simplify this, and you'll see why in a second. So 4x, if I factor, I have 3 times x plus 1 minus 6 over 3x. Now, yes, I could simplify this and go, that's 3 divides into 6 twice, so I'd get 2 over 1, but I'm still going to need that 3 because I have a 3 there. So I'm going to end up multiplying back by 3. So our common denominator will be 3, and then x plus 1. And so this is missing the x, and that is missing the x plus 1. So here I'd have 4x squared over the 3x x plus 1 minus, and then when I distribute, I get 6x plus 6 over 3x times x plus 1. And now to combine the denominators is the 3x times x plus 1, 4x squared minus 6x minus 6, right, because we're distributing that negative. And now, you could factor a 2 out of all these terms, but that doesn't help us because we don't have anything in common with the denominator. Okay, so here again, we're going to factor this denominator. And I see that I can factor out a 3x, and I'm left with x squared plus 3x plus 2, and I can factor that as well. I get 3x, that's x plus 2, x plus 1, and 5 over 3x. So now again, I look and I see I could simplify this and divide out those x's, but it doesn't really help me much because I have an x here that I'm going to need anyway. So here's my common denominator, ends up being this denominator, and so what I'm missing from here is the x plus 2, x plus 1. So the first fraction is 4x over 3x x plus 2, x plus 1, plus 5. And I'm going to want to distribute that to be able to see if there's some like terms. So multiplying that out, right, we get back to the x squared. We know that what we had here, plus 3x plus 2. And when I distribute, that's 5x squared plus 15x plus 10. So now I can write that as one rational expression. Adding, I have 5x squared, the 4x and the 15x is 19x plus 10, and there's nothing I can factor out and simplify. All right, so there's a couple of examples of adding and subtracting. And now these next two part of this topic are called nested or complex fractions, meaning fractions inside of fractions. And so again, we're going to find the common denominator. And so here we have four denominators, 9, 2, 2, and y. And so the common denominator will be 18y. And so I'm going to multiply both the numerator and denominator by 18y. Here, when I distribute, right, I have 4/9 times 18y plus 3x over 2 times 18y. And then in the denominator, 3/2 times 18y plus 3 over y times 18y. And I'm doing a little bit of this the long way, just in the sense that I could visually do the 18y times this and do my simplifying. Because notice 9 divides into 18 twice, so we end up with 8y. Here 2 divides into 18 9 times. 9 times 3 is 27, and then we have the xy. Again, here 2 divides into 18 9, so we get 27y. Here the y's divide out, and 3 times 18 is 54. And then there's no common terms between all of these that I can factor out. Okay, over here, a common denominator, a 3y, a 4, an x squared, and an x. And so that's going to be 12x squared y. And you'll see here, so I'm going to do this mentally or visually. So when I distribute here, the 12x squared divided by the 3y is going to leave me with 4x squared, right? Because the y's divide out, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. And if that is a lot for you to do in your head, certainly go back and do this. Excuse me. So as I said, the 3 divides into 12, 4. Y's divide out. 4x squared times x is 4x cubed. Here, 4 divides into 12, 3. So we have 3x squared y times 3, which is 9x squared y. And then in the denominator, the x squareds divide out, and we end up with 36y minus, and here, one of the x's divides out, so I have a 12, one of the x's, and then y times y squared. And notice there's no common factor, so we're done. I hope that helps, and we'll see you soon.